Hello everyone, welcome to another session on literary theory, 5th semester paper. Okay, so we were discussing about liberal humanism and this is my third session on liberal humanism. In this session, we'll quickly discuss about the 10 tenets of liberal humanism, which is with that I conclude my discussions on liberal humanism. Okay. So, which are they? And I'll just quickly explain what exactly it is. I have already told you liberal humanists basically argue for, or they actually say that that you need not look beyond the text, or you should not focus yourself on the cultural, the historical, the political, the societal aspects into the text. There is no need to apply that, and you have to look into the text as a kind of a complete version. There is no need to find meanings from outside the text. That is what liberal humanists actually say, and we'll quickly look into the 10 tenets. The first one is liberal humanists. They argue that a literary text has got timeless significance, and as it is said in Peter Barry, he in fact quotes Ben Jonson and say a writing is not for an age but for all time, or another quote from Ezra Pound, news which stays new. So a literary work has got a timeless significance, so there is no need to focus on what that particular context. There is no need to talk about that particular age or that particular cultural setup or political setup, because a historical text actually it lives, it is timeless, and even now we are talking about Shakespeare. So even after these 450 years we talk about Shakespeare, so there is no need to talk about that particular cultural or historical context. So that is point number one. Now the second tenet is that I read it out from Peter Barry: the literary text contains its own meaning within itself. The text contains meaning within itself. Okay, and he continues that there is no need to look for the context, be it socio-political or literary, historical or autobiographical. There is no need to look into any of these contexts. Rather, you have to look into the text. Meaning is contained within the text. Okay, so that is the second tenet. The third one, according to Peter Barry, is to understand a text, it must be detached from the context, and it should be studied in isolation. You have to detach it from the context. All the context that you're talking about, you should detach it from the context, and it should be read, it should be studied, it should be understood in isolation. Then only you will have a better understanding of the text. So you can say that just as Aristotle said, it is maybe in the context of tragedy, he talks about that particular work should be complete. So when a writer writes something, it is complete in itself. The writer comes up with an idea, it has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. Okay, so they are talking about, the writers are talking about their idea within that particular structure called text. So why exactly you are searching for meaning outside the text? That is what liberal humanists argue. Okay, now moving on to the fourth one, fourth tenet. Now according to liberal humanists, they say that human nature is essentially unchanging. There is a continuity starting from Homer, or you can say even when you look into the Greek classics, you can relate certain things which happen there with something that is happening now. Okay, so human nature, it is essentially unchanging. There is a continuity that you can see in in the behavioral pattern, or you can see in the nature in general of human beings. So such a continuity you can see even in literature. It is that continuity of literature that makes literature, rather than going after this innovation or other kind of things that is some additions that you're talking about, that is not needed. That is what liberal humanists argue. And now moving on to the fifth one, liberal humanists, they argue that the essence of any literary work is the individuality, and individuality transcends transcends influences, no matter what is happening around, no matter what is the environment, what is the background, or you can say the historical, the cultural, the political background, you can say that certain aspects of individuality, it actually transcends the time. So in that sense, you in the similar vein, you can say, you have to look into the work as something that is that has got an individuality of its own, and thereby you have to keep in mind that it has got an essence which actually transcends the influences that are there around, be it any type of influences. Okay, so that is, you can say, point number 5. Moving on to the sixth one, the tenets, in the tenets, as mentioned by Peter Barry, he says that the purpose of literature is the enhancement of life, and also you can say that it is the propagation of human values or humane values. That is the purpose of literature, and it is not to be done in a programmatic way. So when you read a literary work, for that matter, as it is said by the first liberal humanist Aristotle, you can say that he said it in the context of tragedy, but you can associate that even to any literature for that matter. When you read a play or when you go through a work of art, there is a kind of a purgation of emotions that actually happens. You empathize, you sympathize, or you just feel for that particular character in that work, or you feel for what's happening in that particular work, be it a poetry, a drama, a play, or you can say a novel for that matter. You actually feel for what's happening there, and there is a purification of emotions. If not purification, you can say that there is an enhancement of life, there is a propagation of human values that is happening, and there is no need to program it, to tune it to one particular fashion, like you can say, like what is the class divide over there, how much is the gender inequality up there, or you can say what is the Dalit issues up there. There is no need to program it that way. This is the argument of liberal humanists. We are not saying that something is good, few arguments are good and others are bad. I'm just stating what exactly is mentioned up there. We'll just try to study it as it is rather than going for a judgment. Okay, so this is what liberal humanists argue. Literature, the purpose of literature is the enhancement of life, and it is basically for the propagation of human values. And when you're doing it, there is no need to program it, there is no need to tune it into one particular fashion. So that was point number 6. And moving on to the 7th one, the 7th tenet talks about the organic fusion of form and content in a work of literature, or you can say in a work of art. There is a organic fusion. It's something natural that form and content, they should go together. There is no need to separate, and certain people, they follow the form, and few others, they follow the content. Okay, they say that the content is important rather than the form. And for some critics, the form is important, because the content is just the same down through the ages. There is nothing new in the content. So according to liberal humanists, they are of the view that there is no need to separate the two, or there should be an organic fusion of both form and content, and so that one grows inevitably from the other. It actually, it is in their union that actually makes sense. Okay, so that is point number 7. Moving on to 8th one, it's a continuation of this organic element in a literary work, and in that, as the 8th tenet, it talks about the sincerity. So what's this element of sincerity? The truthfulness to the experience, how much truthful the writer is to that particular experience. Then honesty towards the self, and the capacity of humans, empathy and compassion. Just take the example of Solitary Reaper by William Wordsworth. So it is just an experience. Take it as an experience of William Wordsworth, if he goes by his own theory that emotions recollected in tranquility. So he had this experience of seeing a solitary reaper, on some background, let it be. So that is in his mind, and he saw it, and that is why we say it as a truthful to the experience and honesty towards self. And what exactly was that impact it made on him? Okay, so that is what he's recollecting, and he's writing about it, and he's telling us like these are the feelings that he has got. And then the capacity for human empathy and compassion, how he relates his own very personal experience, how it is evolved to something that could be called as empathy, that when it is getting represented through his poem in a solitary reaper, actually makes, and you can say it is a sincere poem. Then you can call it as a sincere poem. So you can say that that should be your focus of analysis, that is where you have to put your thrust on. That is what liberal humanists argue, the quality which resides within the language of literature. Sincerity, you can trace this sincerity that we are talking about, sincerity to the experience, to the self, and to the the empathy and compassion towards that particular incident. All these things are represented in that particular work itself. Clear with that? And there also there is no need to get into other details. That is what the proponents of liberal humanism, they argue. Now the ninth point, it actually talks about the value of literature. Okay, so the value of literature rests on showing and demonstrating rather than explaining things. You just have to show the thing, you just have to demonstrate the thing. Okay, and the readers let them evaluate. There is no need to prune your attention in one particular manner, to prune your explanation, tend to take readers in one particular manner. That is not needed. Okay, you just have to show, you just have to demonstrate it, and there ends the value of literature. That is their argument. And they say that the explicit comments and formulations often cited in literary history contain specific denigrations. You are devaluing things. If you're going on commenting your own personal opinion about things, you just have to show, you just have to demonstrate, and there lies the value of literature. Okay, so that is point number 9. And the last point is the job of criticism is to interpret. Okay, it is just to be a mediator between just to mediate between the text and the reader, and there lies the thing. Okay, you just have to interpret and nothing more. You can say that they also say that if you tie it up with some theory, for that matter, you are introducing certain preconceived ideas into the mind of the reader. There's no need to do that. You just interpret, you just explain what's happening up there, and there lies it. There is nothing to move beyond that. That is what the literary humanists say. Okay, I hope I am clear. So we discussed about the 10 tenets. It's there in Peter Barry from you can say page number 16 to 20 of Peter Barry, Beginning Theory by Peter Barry. So go through it, and if you have any doubts, you can message me. Take care and God bless.